think the main challenge we faced was probably lead generation. Was probably our biggest concern. Where to find leads, how to generate them, how to invest our time successfully in generating leads rather than kind of wasting time on stuff that doesn't actually really push the needle very much. Alongside that, I think it was probably kind of the whole process behind the lead generation. So making the most of when you get a listing on in a certain area, kind of the process that you follow afterwards in order to make sure you can get as much business off the back of that as possible. I think that was probably the biggest concern and challenge we had before working with yourselves. Other than the lead generation, which was probably kind of the first priority for us, it's probably along the similar lines. It's kind of trying to build a brand and build a reputation in a very small area. I'd spent a lot of time before I worked with Chris, leaflet drop-in, letter drop-in, stuff like that, which I don't regret doing, but in hindsight, it's probably not the most productive way of working, in all fairness. So we were looking to find kind of similar to lead generation, a more successful way of building a brand and building a reputation in a local area without endless hours of marching around in the rain and, as Chris refers to it, wearing down shoe leather in order to get that reputation built, I think. Probably very similar to a lot of self-employed agents. Our biggest problem was everything was very up and down. And what I mean by that is you kind of work hard to get 4, 5, 6 ads on the market, and then they kind of then end up taking up your time and putting the lead generation or the business growth on hold while you're progressing them and making sure they get through to completion. So you end up getting kind of a wave up and down between getting loads on and that being busy, and then by the time you've completed on all of them, you're back at ground level one again, and you've got to rebuild that pipeline again. So it was quite up and down. Whereas now, pipeline is now nice and healthy, and fingers crossed, as long as we keep going the way we should, that pipeline should continue to stay healthy. When I first started, I don't really, kind of a bit like everyone, it's a bit more of a guessing game, but you end up, it'd be like, oh, I'm getting paid, twice this month, and then I'm not getting paid next month, stuff like that. Whereas now we're kind of at the point I've been hoping to get to for a few years, which is I've got completions coming in October, November, December, January, and it makes everything a bit more predictable. When I started working with Chris, I was part-time. I'm now completely full-time, and that's only in the 3 months we've been working together so far. We are tending to bring more valuable properties to the market, which in turn brings a higher fee. This week alone, we've got a £1 million property coming on at 1%, and we've got a valuation for a 950 also at 1%. Whereas previously, I'd have probably ended up negotiating my way down. To be honest with you, previously I wouldn't have got a house of that value, for one, and two, I would have ended up negotiating myself downwards. A bit like Chris says in his book, I'd end up negotiating myself downwards before they've even said no to the original price, to be completely honest, which we've kind of learned not to do now. I think that's partly in the confidence of the service we provide and knowing I'm worth that value, but two, just having the kind of technique and strategy to deal with putting that price across to customers and making them understand from our pitch that the value is within that fee, if that makes sense. I mean, in terms of properties, we're definitely gaining more. I think when I came on with Chris 3 months ago, I think we had 9 on the market. We've now got, well, we haven't got 9 on because we've sold most of them, but we've got, I think it's 14 overall now, and that's not including any of the existing 9 that were there in the first place. So the numbers are definitely speaking for it. And in terms of conversions, we've done a lot of work with how quickly we adjust the price and adjust the listings, and making sure we're on top of price reductions and stuff like that has definitely sped up the process in selling properties and getting them shifted faster, which has made also all the difference. Not having something sitting on your book for months on end before you can get rid of it. I think a lot of it as well, and I know this is a testimonial video, so a lot of the people who will probably see this, it will probably be very similar for them. I think a lot of it with the confidence is working on your own. You don't have that reassurance or someone to bounce ideas off, and having someone telling you you're doing the right thing or kind of putting you in the right direction makes all the difference. Especially with stuff like, so what I had before, I kind of touched on the letter drop in previously. When you're doing it on your own and you have no one else telling you that's the right thing to do, you kind of feel like you're guessing with what you're doing. You're just hoping it's going to work. Whereas obviously Chris has been there and done it before, so it kind of gives you that reassurance that what you're doing will work. You just got to kind of bear with it, and so far it has worked, so I can't complain. So number one is not so much the process within a sale, because I think we did kind of have that under wraps by the time we started working with Chris, but the confidence in your scheduling of your days. So we worked a lot with Chris with sort of diary management, planning out your days in a much more sort of productive way. I think that's made quite the difference in running the business. Maybe not so much in the confidence, but in the making it a lot less chaotic is probably a better phrase to use. It gives you a lot more confidence in what you're doing. It gives you a lot more confidence when you're going into people's living rooms and discussing your pitch with them and getting their business on. You kind of, you just feel more assured in yourself and in the service you're providing. I mean, the other bonus with confidence is when you've got something you come across. I know I'm a lot younger than generally people tend to be, but I mean, for myself, I quite often will come across a problem that I haven't had to deal with before, and being able to just, pop a voice note to Chris or pop a text message over to Chris and him kind of prod you in the right direction, or to be honest with you, usually just give you the answer very quickly. That's definitely helped with the confidence as well. When I initially joined and initially sat down with Chris, the two things that stuck out to me is, number one, he pointed out a lot of stuff that we could change almost instantly. Once I'd been told it, it seemed ridiculously obvious, but because I hadn't been told it, I wasn't aware, and loads of little bits like that have made quite the difference. Alongside that, the way he's improved the process in which we work, the organisation, work-life balance has improved massively as well. I was always a fan of, well, I'm not a fan of, but I was always having answering phones 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, whereas he's kind of stressed the importance of making sure you kind of manage both, which I wasn't very good at, so that's definitely made quite a difference. I think the numbers speak for themselves. When I started working with Chris 3 months ago, we had a pipeline of 10,000 going through. Currently, we've got a pipeline of 35, and I think the numbers really tell you everything they need to tell you. To be completely honest with you, there's not much more information I can give you than that. That's going to show exactly what he's trying to preach and what he's showing his services worth. Like you say, non-competing, I wouldn't recommend it to a competing agent just because of how much value and how much benefit I think there is of it. It's definitely much easier to compete with agents who haven't got the benefit of it, which I think says exactly what it needs to say about recommending Chris and yourself to anyone else. I think that says all it needs to say.